Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my wine channel. Today I'm doing another in my series of Burgundy wine basics, and I'm going to go through some facts about the value white wine region of the Maconnais. This is continuing on in my series of Burgundy basics, and I chose to start the first of this series with Côte Chalonnaise, which is known for value red wines. And now I'm doing the other region, which is a little bit lower down in Burgundy to the south, called the Maconnais or the Macon. And so that's kind of known for value white wines. And really, from my perspective, this is a great place to learn about Burgundy. And particularly because with white wines, it's all Chardonnay grapes. I believe that the soil and the terroir is fairly similar all across Burgundy. And what distinguishes Maconnais from maybe some of the higher end producers is a lot about stylistically what they do to it. So because Maconnais is known as a value region, they probably don't age it as long, and it's not really meant, the way they produce it is not meant for long-term storage. Part of that is the supply and demand, because they can't afford to put in the extended aging and I think the care and attention that some of the other regions in Burgundy can, because they can't produce the price. So let's say theoretically you could produce a wine similar to Corton Charlemagne in the Maconnais, but that would require extensive aging. That would need upgrades in the cellar. That would probably need wine consultants, and so you produce this wine that's the same quality as a Corton Charlemagne in Maconnais, and you sell it for $150. No one's going to buy it. And that's part of the problem, that they can't, I don't think it's that they can't produce really expensive wines, it's that that's not their market. And so I don't think we should look at it as a lesser region in terms of these are worse winemakers or it's worse grapes or worse soils. It's more about the economics of things, because the Maconnais, unfortunately, like it or not, is known as a value region. And unless over time that changes, they can't afford to put in the extensive money and time that's required to produce wines that are extended aging and that will in part command higher values, because there is a correlation between wines that are long-lived and price, because no one wants to pay a $300 or $400 for a wine that you can only have to drink within 3 to 5 years. Of course, they'd like to have a wine that's a little bit longer. So that kind of explains it. And what I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't, and I'm guilty of this too. We shouldn't take this opinion, oh, Maconnais or Côte Chalonnaise, these are lesser regions or lousy winemakers or lousy wines. No, it's really a supply-demand thing. And in fact, we should take advantage of that, knowing that it's the same grape type, it's fairly similar soil, and it's meant for early consumption. Take advantage of that. So let's get back to this wine region. It's really famous for Pouilly-Fuissé. And in fact, Pouilly-Fuissé is now the only premier cru region in the Maconnais. So there's about 22 premier cru sites in Pouilly-Fuissé. And that's deserving, because Pouilly-Fuissé has actually really brought up the region. Only 10% of the wine produced in the region is red wine. And so the most basic kind of wines that you'll get here is called Macon. So I'm just looking through the BC liquor stores and what they have. I don't actually think they have much just basic Macon. I guess you would find that more in France, and if you could find it in Vancouver, that would be great. That's just the basic appellation for, it can be used for white, for red, and rosé, but mostly white. We in Vancouver see mostly the next level up, which is Macon Villlages, and also Macon plus a name. So they are still Village wines in principle, but Macon Villlages allows you to, it's a better, it's an upgraded kind of, I guess, rating in terms of where it comes from. And then Macon plus a name. So there's Macon Pries, Macon Verze. Those are more specific. And again, going back to this whole system of French vineyards, the idea is that if you get grapes from a smaller region, a smaller landmass, then that's better than if you could take it from everywhere at once, because that's more specialized. Okay, so for instance, we see some Louis Latour from Macon Lugny, which is again a Macon plus a village. We see some from a Macon Village from Brett Brothers, all in about the $30 range. And then there's one from Milly and Lamartine, which is a little bit more expensive, about $50. But these are all Chardonnay, the same white wine Burgundies that you find at more expensive regions in Burgundy and Côte d'Or. But it's good for an entry level to see if you like that style. Generally, the style of Chardonnay is going to be less oaked, I would say, than American Chardonnay. And so for those people who are bothered by oaky Chardonnays, maybe you'll like some of the crispness of the French Burgundy Chardonnays from the Macon region, which tend to be a little bit more acidic and more citrusy in style compared to US Chardonnay. There are also other regions in the Maconnais which are named, and so one of them is Saint-Varane and the other one is Classé. And so Classé was brand new created, and actually I enjoy wines from this region. They used to be called Macon Villas and Macon Classé. Now it's called Verze Classé in terms of the region. And so I note in the BC liquor stores, for instance, they do have out of the Saint-Varane region, they have a wine. It's $62. So again, it would be considered I think a pretty good wine from this region, but an entry level if you compare to some of the other higher end brands, Côte d'Or. And my kind of thought process is why not try something a little bit more less expensive and get some top or a high end producer in a region like Saint-Varane, $62. $62 in a Côte d'Or as a white wine would get you kind of bottom of the barrel. And so it's just a different way of thinking things. And my thought process is if you want to start out in Burgundy and just try to get your feet wet and try to figure out if you actually like Burgundy wines, it's not a bad idea to go to these regions. Côte Chalonnaise for red, Maconnais for white. But if you're going to drink in those regions, drink a little bit higher up. Spend a little bit of money on these regions. Take some of the more expensive wines. So a $50, $60 wine from Maconnais is fairly expensive. It's a top end level. And again, that would be pretty low end or low value in some of the more expensive regions in Burgundy. I don't see it in a liquor store, but one wine that I would recommend from Verze Classé is Comte Lafran's wine, called Domaine des Héritiers. I'll have it in the section in case I'm pronouncing it wrong. I really like that wine. So it's again Verze Classé. It's going to be a white wine from the Maconnais region, but Comte Lafran is a very good producer, and this is their winery in the Macon. And so you're getting kind of the skill set of a very high-end producer going to a value region and trying to make great wines for drinking, early consumption. So it's going to have a lot of quality. Another producer that I've had from Verze Classé is one of my favorite producers, which is Bichot, and they also do one. And so I kind of enjoy those wines. They're very clean, affordable. They won't really break your bank, and they actually taste really good without extended aging. So one of the complaints I know that I have is that when you buy wine like Corton Charlemagne, you pay $200-300 for a white wine, and if you open it right away, you actually get no value for that as compared to a Verze Classé wine. Where you get the value is if you open a Corton Charlemagne 15 years later, like 2000, and right now I'm drinking 2006 Corton Charlemagnes. So they're tasting very oaky and buttery, and that aging process has really improved it. Whereas if you had a 2006 Verze Classé wine, it probably wouldn't be very good at this point. So that's where you get the value. So if you're gonna buy high-end white wines, that's really for extended aging. If you just want to drink a Burgundy wine, you really don't need to spend that type of price. You're not gonna spend for the DRC Montrachet. It's a kind of a waste of money if you're gonna drink it right away. Drink things like the Verze Classé. And then the famous region of Pouilly-Fuissé, again, I would drink the region. It's clean. People enjoy it because of it, the cleanness of the wine. We have in BC a range. We have some in the $30 range, which would be from Chartron and a couple of other producers. And then we have some that are a little bit more expensive, which is Domaine Thiebert, which is at $60, $61, $62. And so, again, your choice is there. It's kind of nice. You can play around with both. You can have an entry-level Pouilly-Fuissé, or maybe you can have you can find a premier cru site, Pouilly-Fuissé, and kind of experiment with the difference. In my mind, again, because you're going for value, I would try and go for the top end. That will kind of more mimic the experience of what you would see with higher end Chardonnay. So to me, that's kind of the way that I would drink these two regions. Again, take advantage of their value, but at the same point, try and get the best producer that you can afford in those regions so that you can actually get very good examples of white and red Burgundies and see if that is your taste. Some people, it's not their taste preference. It might have something to do with age. I can tell you that I'm only beginning to understand Burgundy. Some people say that it has something to do with taste buds because, maybe your taste buds get a little bit more down-toned when you get older. So you like more subtle things. I'm not sure if there's any truth to that, but I do know it takes a lot of experience because initially people that get into wine are more attracted to kind of more solid or more obvious tastes. So that's why people are attracted to Bordeaux, which has got some nice fruit and heaviness and oak, and American and Australian wines, which are very fruit forward, and Champagne. So these are kind of wines that people get into because they're not subtle. They you either like them or you don't. There's taste. They're they're kind of stylistically heavier, whereas Burgundy is much more subtle. And the differences in Burgundy, I think, take a bit of subtleness, appreciation of subtlety, and that I think gets developed over time. Because when you're first drinking wine, you actually can't tell subtlety. You can barely tell different tastes. You're just trying to, get experience. And once you get that experience, then I think your palate, your mind get more appreciative of subtlety, and that's kind of where Burgundy comes in, and that's my explanation for why people get into Burgundy generally a little bit later in their drinking career. Now that's not for everyone. Some people love Burgundy right off the top, but from my experience, that's what happened. I can tell you that I started out drinking other things, and I knew Burgundy was expensive, so I always tried to pretend I liked Burgundy, and I was interested in Burgundy, but I wasn't really understanding of it, and I'm only think that I am now starting to really appreciate Burgundy truly, instead of just kind of faking it before because I thought everyone else liked it. I hope this video has been useful, and until next time, happy drinking.